Yeah. Analytics off the chain, other channels not the same. Jake and Kyle, you know the name. Headliner Nation, we running the game. I'm a headliner.
Yo, what is going on, Headliner Nation? Welcome back to the Fantasy Headliners. Kyle here to give you some Mock Draft Monday. And over the last couple of mock draft videos we've done, we see those comments about people saying, I mean, it's the great debate every year. Do you start with a wide receiver or do you start with a running back? But it does feel like this year more than ever, people are saying, I'm not drafting a running back first. And the reason being is because they just feel like they've gotten burned the last couple of years by running backs. And that to them has made them self-conscious. They're like, I don't want to take a running back and get burnt by them. You know, there's a less chance I'm going to get burnt by a wide receiver. I don't know if that's actually true or not. We could go into that video at another point. But this video, I want to showcase to you in my mock draft. If you decide to skip on a running back in your first and maybe even first two picks, what is that going to look like for you? When you get to round 3 and 4 and you're looking for an RB1 at that point, what is that going to look like? You really need to, at that point, try to adjust, try to figure out what is going to be happening for you, what your roster is going to look like. And I want to depict a roster to you and get your thoughts on if you skip on running back in the first round, is that a roster that you're happy with? And at the end of the video, I'm going to tell you how you could potentially win a free draft guide. So make sure you watch the entire thing so you can answer that question a little bit later on when I ask it. But I think it's about time we jump right into it. It's Mock Draft Monday. Let's jump into this mock draft, 12-team, half PPR. I'm drafting at the back end of the first round, skipping on running back to start, and seeing what our roster will look like if we do really take advantage of the wide receivers and then try to fill in those running backs a little later on. Drafting from the very back end of the first round here. Some of you like to draft in the turn. Some of you don't like to draft in the turn. Now, I did set the timer in the mock for 10 minutes so that I can make sure that I have an opportunity to talk through everything, all right? And if I'm taking more than 10 minutes per pick to talk to you guys, then I've done something wrong. But again, this draft is all about skipping on running backs, and this draft already is skipping all over running backs. I mean, we're seeing Kupp, Chase, Diggs, and Jefferson all going in the first round, which is leaving us with several running backs to take a shot on. Najee Harris, DeAndre Swift, Nick Chubb, Alvin Kamara, Saquon Barkley, Javonte Williams. Now, the only people I'm really considering first-round picks here would be Harris, Chubb, Kamara, and then Swift. All of those guys I have right around the same area as Swift. So for me, though, because we talked about this, do we skip on running backs? I'm going to skip on a running back here because that's what this is about. What is going to be left at the end of your draft if you skip on running backs? And how long should you skip on them for? So looking through all of this here, Deebo Samuel is going to be my highest ranked wide receiver based on the guys that are left. Adams, I could go with Adams if I want to. Deebo's just a tidbit. Actually, I think I have, now that I think about it, to my last rankings video, Adams is actually higher for me. So Adams would be a little bit higher than Deebo. So the question is can I get Adams and then get Deebo again at the turn? Let's see. We're going to go ahead and go with Adams here. And we are. So again, we're starting with no running backs, all right? This isn't necessarily a zero running back strategy. But for those of you that are drafting towards the end of the first round, you are going to be the ones that are going to be most tempted to go with a wide receiver instead of going with a running back. Now, again, I would have picked a running back there. That's just who I am. I want a lot of running backs. We're going to go with Deebo Samuel here, though, and we're going to start our draft with Davante Adams and Deebo Samuel both. All right, listen, Josh Allen, okay? Too early. Too early for Josh Allen. Going all the way through here, lots of tight ends. I think it is kind of interesting to note that we've got Kelsey, Pitts, and Kittle coming off the board already. So now that we've skipped on running back for our first two picks, and we've started with Davante Adams, And Deebo Samuel, what is that going to leave us with now? Cam Akers, David Montgomery, James Conner, J.K. Dobbins, Josh Jacobs, Breece Hall, Travis Etienne, Elijah Mitchell. You're almost going to have to go with a running back here. If you take a look at tight ends, a lot of you might be tempted to potentially go with Darren Waller. This mock draft does allow you to start with 3 wide receivers, so you might be into taking a T. Higgins or a Terry McLaurin. If you're thinking about taking a quarterback here right now, I'm going to need to ask you to put down your drink. It's too early in the morning to be drinking that sauce. Okay, put that down. So we're going to go back to the running back position. So who has the best opportunity among all these running backs that we have listed right here? Cam Akers, I can't do it. I can't do it with Cam Akers right now. From what we saw in the playoffs at the end of the season, yes, it was within a year of an Achilles injury, but I haven't seen him on the field looking fully healthy. For me to use my 3rd round pick on my RB1 as Cam Akers, a guy that I'm going to have to rely on to get me volume, I can't do it. So it's going to be between David Montgomery and James Conner here. David Montgomery, James Conner. James Conner, to me, has the highest upside of the two. Plays in a better offense. We saw how he was utilized last year. He lost his main counterpart, basically, for touches. For David Montgomery, I like David Montgomery. Don't get me wrong. I'm a big fan of Monty, but as my RB1, I need to have a little bit of mix of upside and safety. And for me, James Conner just brings a little bit more of that upside. So I'm going to go with him first. And it's going to come back around to me. And now David Montgomery will still be available here for me as my RB2 in round 4. So now I get a little bit of that upside with James Conner, David Montgomery last, and now I get David Montgomery for a little bit more of that safety here in round 4. But let's take a look at what else is out there. Again, no tight ends since the last time we talked have come off. Darren Waller still going to kind of be that best opportunity there for you. But in round 5 and 6 coming up next, Dalton Schultz is probably going to be there. Dallas Goedert is going to be there. Zach Ertz is going to be there. Okay, perfect. For wide receivers, yeah, a few more of them are probably going to go off the board. So we're going to be looking more towards like maybe a Michael Pittman, an Allen Robinson, a Cortland Sutton, maybe even a DeAndre Hopkins, right? So let's go ahead and go back. Let's go with David Montgomery here as our RB2, and let's move forward with that and see what we get. There goes Darren Waller. Justin Herbert's off the board a little early there. J.K. Dobbins is a 4th round pick. Breece Hall. Travis Etienne coming off pretty early there. There goes Pittman. And there goes Damian Harris. So now back to us again. Let's take, excuse me. Let's take a little bit of a look at tight end here. Now, depending on the type of people you draft with, if they just look at the overall board here, you're going to see DeAndre Hopkins and Dalton Schultz coming up right here. 2 guys that I just talked about and 2 guys that I would like to have. But I also know that having Allen Robinson, seeing as I already have Devontae Adams and Deebo Samuel, could be a little bit safer for me. So let's break this down here real quick, all right? We could go with our first tight end off the board. We're not going quarterback yet. We could go with our first tight end off the board, and we could go with Dalton Schultz. We have Dalton Schultz, we have Dallas Goedert, and we have Zach Ertz. I have Dalton Schultz in that kind of like that tier 1B category this year. I really like Dalton Schultz. I think he's going to end up being, for a majority of the season, the main target for Dak. If you watch game film of Dallas last year, Dak was constantly looking Schultz's way on every single play. Always looking for him. I would much rather try to grab him right here because now I have 2 guys that I could pick between, right? I like Allen Robinson. I like DeAndre Hopkins. I like him evenly. The reason I don't like DeAndre Hopkins more is because I'm not going to get him for a full season. But I know if I draft him in round 6 to pair him with Devontae Adams and Deebo Samuel after he comes back after his suspension, I'm essentially going to have 3 wide receiver 1s on my team. That's kind of insane. That's kind of insane when you take a look at it. Now, you can only start 3 wide receivers. We do have 2 flex spots, though. So we are going to have to go back to looking at running backs at some point in time because, We love to put running backs in our flex spots. As long as you can continue to flex running backs, you're going to get a decent amount of volume out of them from each week. So when we look at what we've got coming up here, it's starting to get a little bit bare, right? We're starting to get into an area where we're going to have some trouble with some guys. CEH, Miles Sanders, Cordarrelle Patterson are really the only guys left that we're like, okay, they're going to get a lion's share. We've got A.J. Dillon, who we like, but going to be splitting some touches. So we're going to have to be moving on running back again very, very soon. We're going to risk it here a little bit, and we're going to hope that when we get back around to us, like Cordarrelle Patterson sticks around. So then we can flex Cordarrelle Patterson a little bit later on. That will give us a good opportunity. He's got running back and wide receiver ability here. So we can put him in either spot, which allows us to be flexible with it. But we can drop Cordarrelle Patterson in there. So the hope is that he's still going to be around when it comes back to us. So for me, I am going to go ahead and go with Dalton Schultz here because he's the guy that I look at that I say he's probably going to be gone the quickest. I want to make sure that I have him. Okay, there goes A-Rob. There goes Kyler Murray. So that decision at wide receiver 2 has been made for me, right? I'm going to go with DeAndre Hopkins over Michael Thomas. That's not really anything to me that's not even a question. That's not even a question. So for me, DeAndre Hopkins right here, I'm going to draft him in the 6th round because when he comes back, I'm going to have 3 wide receiver 1s starting on a weekly basis. Kareem Hunt, Clyde Edwards-Helaire off the board here. There goes A.J. Dillon, Miles Sanders, Kenneth Walker. So now we're really starting to lose those running backs, ladies and gentlemen. And this is where things get really, really difficult, right? If you're looking at your team right now and you say, well, you got James Conner and David Montgomery, Kyle. Those aren't really bad picks. Whew. Cordarrelle Patterson did end up lasting all the way to us. That's great because we are going to need him. We are going to need Cordarrelle Patterson here. So let me grab Cordarrelle Patterson because I'm going to have to start another running back. I'm going to have to put another running back, okay? So we're going to go Cordarrelle Patterson. Hunter Renfrow, Tony Pollard. Now the question becomes, who else do we go here, right? We've got our 3 wide receivers, but we're going to end up needing another one at some point in time because we're not going to have DeAndre Hopkins. But we do, again, have that flexibility with Cordarrelle Patterson if we want to. Some decent guys coming up here that we can take a shot on. Elijah Moore, Rashad Bateman is a decent pick. In the 8th round, Rashad Bateman, a guy that's going to be the wide receiver 1 on his team. When you take a look at the guys that are left, really the only person that we can take a look at here and say, yeah, that's why he's like the wide receiver 1. Elijah Moore, I mean, obviously they brought in Garrett Wilson, and you've also got Corey Davis there. Devontae Smith has A.J. Brown now. Chris Olave still going to have Michael Thomas. Gabriel Davis has Stephon Diggs. Robert Woods, he's, when is he going to be back? Treylon Burks, Chase Claypool, Deontay Johnson, Christian Watson in Green Bay. Yeah, has an opportunity to be the number 1, but will he be the number 1 over a guy like Allen Lazard? Robert Tonyan's still going to get a lot of looks there. Jamison Williams, when will he be healthy, if at all, this year? Kadarius Toney, the Giants haven't been super happy with him. Michael Gallup hurt. Sky Moore, he's been hurt in training camp so far. Christian Kirk could be the wide receiver 1, but we have no idea as of yet. Allen Lazard could be. Russell Gage won't. Kenny Golladay, maybe not. Totally. So if you take a look at this, just based on opportunity alone, I'm almost going to go Rashad Bateman here, grab him, and now I have my wide receiver 3, or a guy that I can use in my flex as a wide receiver 1 later on. Now, when we look back at running backs, there's nobody here that jumps off the page to me that I'm like, yes, gotta have him. Melvin Gordon, kind of the next guy up, because we know he's still going to get touches this year. We know he's still going to get touches. Chase Edmonds, this backfield here in Miami's a mess. Michael Carter's going to lose a ton to Breece Hall. James Cook could break out, but when will that happen? And more than likely, he'll be gone. And I don't know if I really want to take him over a guy like Bateman right now. Rashad Penny has Kenneth Walker there right now. James Robinson trying to come back from an injury. Melvin Gordon just talked about. Isaiah Spiller, he's not going to get a ton of touches, but he's going to spell Austin Eckler. Ronald Jones is another guy. Hey, maybe he unseats Clyde Edwards-Helaire this year. Good late round grab here of Ronald Jones, especially if you're a CEH owner. You don't need a tight end. Taking a look at quarterback, Hurts, Wilson, Rodgers, Brady, Stafford. Lance Carr. I mean, there's still decent options here for that. I'm going to go Rashad Bateman. I think he is the smartest choice here for us. Even though we do technically need another running back, it's hard for me to pass on a guy in the 8th round that is going to be the wide receiver 1 on his team, right? That's going to be the toughest part about all this. Rashad Bateman's going to be the wide receiver 1 on his team. So basically all the quarterbacks I've talked about have come off the board. Hurts, Wilson, Rodgers, Brady, and Stafford all off the board there. Let's take a look at quarterbacks now. Deshaun Watson, Trey Lance, Derek Carr, Kirk Cousins, Tua, Justin Fields, Trevor Lawrence, Jameis Winston, Ryan Tannehill, Matt Ryan. For me personally, I don't think I want to jump at a quarterback here. If Stafford, Hurts, Wilson, Rodgers, Brady, any of them would have been available here at the end of the 9th, that would have been my pick. None of them are here at the end of the 9th, so none of them are going to be guys. All these guys that are left, Deshaun Watson, still facing, obviously, potential suspension. Trey Lance, love Trey Lance. If you guys have watched his channel, you know how much I like Trey Lance. Derek Carr is going to be steady. But all these guys, Lance, Carr, Cousins, Tua, Fields, Lawrence, Wilson, Tannehill, Ryan, Jones, Wilson. I mean, all of these guys are kind of like in the same area for me. So let's go back to running back and see what we've got at running back here. Well, James Cook from Buffalo ended up lasting all the way here. Now, here's going to be my decision. James Cook from Buffalo or Melvin Gordon from Denver. Now, Melvin Gordon isn't going to unseat Javonte Williams if Javonte Williams is healthy. James Cook could unseat Devin Singletary regardless of Singletary's health. Now, Singletary is coming off one heck of a postseason run, really utilized towards the end of the season very, very well. So for me, kind of looking at all of this, who has the potential for the most upside? For me, it's James Cook in Buffalo. Should have some sort of a role as a pass catcher right away. And then again, could end up unseating Singletary if Singletary can't continue to bring over that magic that we saw from the end of the season. Lance is now off the board. Wide receivers. Nobody's sitting here right now other than Christian Kirk that I'm really looking to jump on. Running backs, again, Melvin Gordon is still here. So I could, now that I've taken James Cook, I still could grab Melvin Gordon in hopes of he's a guy that, hey, maybe I am able to flex him. Quarterback-wise, again, Carr, Cousins, Tua, Fields, Lawrence, Winston, Tannehill, Ryan, Jones, Wilson. There's nobody here right now that is like, ooh, I got to have him in the 10th round. So instead of reaching on a quarterback that I'm not super excited about, I would rather draft somebody that I'm like, man, I could really utilize them at some point this season. And seeing as how I've already skipped on running backs to the point of having Connor Montgomery and Cordarrelle Patterson as my top 3, I might as well go Melvin Gordon. If there's an injury to Javonte Williams, we know he's the RB1. We know that he's a guy that is still going to get some touches in that offense this year. Maybe not as many as we saw last year, but still enough to be possibly flex viable, especially if that Denver team is much better and has an opportunity to run a little bit more this year. So I'm going to go Melvin Gordon all the way down here in the 10th round to kind of help continue to reinforce my running backs, knowing that I'm not super happy with them anyway. Christian Kirk off the board. That was the one thing that I was a little disappointed in now, is that Kirk is not going to make it all the way back to me. I would love to end up having Kirk at this point. Don't get him, though. So now here in the 11th round, really taking a look at quarterbacks. For me, I mean, Tua has the potential for some of the most upside. He has the best weapons around him, right? He has the best weapons around him. Justin Fields, you know, he's lost Allen Robinson, new playbook. Trevor Lawrence, yes, he's gained Christian Kirk. Is that enough? Jameis Winston, Michael Thomas, is he going to be healthy? We've added Chris Olave. We've added Jarvis Landry. So between Jameis Winston and Tua Tagovailoa, these two are going to be one of my choices here. Who has the most upside? For me, it's going to be Jameis Winston. I believe Jameis Winston probably has a little bit more upside than Tua right now. Absolutely love Tua, a lot more than most of you. But for me, this late, let's go ahead and take that shot on Jameis Winston and see what he does. Tyler Boyd, man. Dang it. I wanted Tyler Boyd to be my next pick. Missed out on him. So what do we have coming up? We've got George Pickens out of Pittsburgh. We got Jacoby Myers, Dotson in Washington, Landry, More Chark. Marquez Valdes-Scantling, Tim Patrick, OBJ, who hasn't been signed to anybody yet. Running back wise, we got Alexander Madison. We got Rachaad White from Tampa Bay. Darrell Henderson. Darrell Henderson is an interesting one to me because he's going to get touches this year. I don't believe that Cam Akers is just going to be the guy. And by the guy, I mean the guy that just gets 70 to 80% of the touches. I think possibly this year, with Darrell Henderson being healthy, we see him get back to maybe a 60-50 split with Cam Akers. Cam Akers getting 60. If Darrell Henderson's there when it comes back around, I want Darrell Henderson. Wide receiver-wise, I would like to add another wide receiver. I mean, I've got really good wide receivers now, but we need a little bit of depth here moving forward, especially if we plan on flexing Patterson and Hopkins is going to miss the first 6 games. So who are some guys that are going to be able to help us out over the course of those first 6 games? Taking a look here, going to skip on Pickens, probably the wide receiver 3 right now. Jacoby Myers, 1A, 1B with Devontae Parker. Dodson's going to be the 2 next to Terry McLaurin. Jarvis Landry, half PPR format here with Jameis Winston. I kind of like the potential. I kind of like it because right now I've got Devontae Adams and Deebo Samuel, and I got Rashad Bateman. All those guys, good upside potential. I kind of want somebody a little bit safer. And as we look through everybody here, safest option to me right now, Jarvis Landry, working out of the slot there in New Orleans. Give me some Jarvis in Nolans. A little bit of safety there. Madison ends up coming off the board. Then Darrell Henderson. Ugh, dang it. It's not what I wanted. It's not what I wanted. Now, if you're drafting very, very early in the offseason, like if you're doing a draft over the next month or so, first off, why? Second off, I don't draft kickers or defenses this early because there's really no sense for me to do that. You can just replace them with somebody off the waiver wire later on. Take a shot on some guys that in training camp could jump out and help you out. Like a DJ Chark, if he's connecting to begin the season, especially if Jameson Williams is out. I mean, DJ Chark this late in the draft, maybe he is, the wide receiver 1 in Detroit. Maybe Amon-Ra St. Brown is, and DJ Chark is just more of a big play guy. Either way it goes, this late in the draft, not a bad shot. MVS, hearing some good things from him right now. Sounds like he's picking up some rapport with Patrick Mahomes early. It's helped that basically everyone around him has been injured, but he's starting to develop some of that rapport. Devontae Parker is kind of this option here for me. Never been a big Devontae Parker fan, but he's kind of that safety option that we just talked about with Jarvis Landry. He should get a decent amount of targets with Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes. Mac Jones. I'm sorry. I was starting to read down through a little bit more, and I read Mecole Hardman, and then I started to go down a little bit more, and I was like, wait a second. I didn't mean to say Patrick Mahomes. Anyway, Donovan Peoples-Jones is a guy that I really, really, really want on my team this year, especially if Deshaun Watson ends up playing. Whew, this is a tough one. Do I go safety with Devontae Parker? Do I go with upside of Donovan Peoples-Jones? Do I add another running back here? No running backs that are really kind of jumping off the page to me. Marlon Mack in Houston, though, I think is an interesting option, especially for those of you that waited on running back. Marlon Mack in Houston is definitely a guy I could see working his way into a starting role. Gus Edwards hasn't been cleared to come back. We don't really know about Chris Carson yet at this point. Nobody else really down through here is getting me excited. But, again, late round dart throw, Marlon Mack. I could also handcuff David Montgomery and grab Khalil Herbert if I wanted to. I think I'm going to skip on the handcuffing option for right now. Taking a look at wide receivers, taking a look at running backs, tight ends, David Njoku, Hayden Hurst, Logan Thomas, Evan Ingram, Gerald Everett. Some decent options there for me. I'm actually going to end up going with kind of my gut here. And I'm going to go with Devontae Parker. Give me some of that safety there. And then I'm going to go back to running back. I'm going to take Marlon Mack. If he gets the job in Houston, if he can somehow win it, that's going to be absolutely awesome. And then, wide receiver-wise, if it comes back to me, it's all Donovan Peoples-Jones for me. 100%. And again, I'm not taking a kicker or a defense right now. For me, there's really no reason to, especially if you're drafting this early in the offseason. If we were drafting maybe a month from the season starting or so, then yeah, I would take a kicker and a kicker and a defense. But a majority of you watching right now aren't interested in hearing my take on what kicker or defense I'm going to take in the 13th, 14th, or 15th round. You're looking for guys that you can take later on that can help your fantasy team a little bit more. Donovan Peoples-Jones is that guy for me right there. Oh, we have another round. How many rounds is this? Okay, it's 16 rounds. There was another round. It was hiding on me. There's another round there. It was hiding on me. Now people are starting to take defenses. You know what? Let's take a defense just because. Just because. It's the last round. Who cares? Who am I going to take here? Looking through all these. Washington, up and down last year. Tennessee, I don't know if they're going to be as good defensively this year if they have been. Tampa Bay had some losses. San Francisco is the team for me that could end up being the best option here. Scrolling down through here. Okay, that's what I was wondering. Let's sort this by projected points. Buffalo Bills. It was projected by ADP, but because all their ADPs are $9.99, it was sorted out differently. Points projected wise, Buffalo, give me the Buffalo Bills here. They should have one of the better defenses this year. I will take them here in the last round. It looks like everyone's going to be taking a defense here in the last round. So let's go ahead and drop it down here and take a look at the entire draft. My team, Devontae Adams, Deebo Samuel, James Conner, David Montgomery, Dalton Schultz, DeAndre Hopkins, Cordarrelle Patterson, Rashad Bateman, Cook, Gordon, Winston, Landry Parker, Mack, Donovan Peoples-Jones, and then the Buffalo Bills defense. So let me know down in the comments below, ladies and gentlemen. Number one, hashtag grade my team. Use hashtag grade my team. If we get 800 likes, no, screw it, 1,000 likes on this video today, 1,000 likes on this video today, I'm going to give away a draft guide, okay? I'm going to give away a draft guide. I want to hit 1,000 likes. Let's split the difference, 800 likes. We're going to do 800 likes today. If we hit 800 likes, somebody that uses hashtag grade my team and gives me a grade in the comments below, I'm going to pick you to win a free draft guide. But leave me a comment down below. What do you think of the team? Weaknesses? What do you think of this? We're skipping on running backs type of strategy. Where do you think that leaves your team? That is what I want to know about in the comments. Leave me a comment down below, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully y'all appreciated this mock draft, though. Peace out, stay safe, stay healthy. I'll catch you all on the next episode of the Fantasy Headliners.
Analytics off the chain, other channels not the same. Jake and Kyle, you know the name. Headliner Nation, we running the game. Y'all stuck on third down. Your content's plain Jane. Headliners on top now. We gonna move and change. Podcast off the rip. Draft guide, so legit. Fantasy world, our game tight. You know we about that chub life. Stuck in a rut and you need some motivation. Head to the channel for this Headliner Nation. I'm a headliner.